Karen called the cops on me. But the thing is, I am the cops. The police chief of this small town. And she had no idea what kind of storm she was about to walk into. It started on a warm Saturday morning. The kind where the sun hits the hood of your car just right, making it shine like candy. My pride and joy, 1969 red Mustang, fastback sat in my driveway, polished to perfection. I had spent weeks restoring it. Every bolt, every shine on the chrome, every deep rumble of the engine it was my escape. My connection to my late father, who taught me how to work on cars in our old garage back when I was just a kid. I wasn't just looking at a car. I was looking at family history. But apparently, my neighbor Karen, president of our HOA, didn't see it that way. She saw it as something her spoiled son deserved. I heard her before I saw her. That sharp voice that could cut glass. "Excuse me, Steve. My son has prom tonight, and your car would be perfect for his big entrance. Just hand over the keys." Turned, and there she was. Karen, perfectly pressed blouse, a clipboard in her hand like always, and that fake smile that screamed entitlement. Her son, a lanky kid with a smug smirk, leaned on her shoulder like he already owned the place. I kept my tone calm. "Karen, this car isn't for loan. It's personal. Family. I don't let anyone else drive it." Her smile cracked. "Oh, come on, don't be dramatic. He just needs it for one night. Think of the community. People will talk about how generous you were. Besides, it's not like you even use it every day." That last line hit a nerve. This car wasn't just something I used. It was my memory of my dad. The weekends we spent with grease on our hands, old rock and roll playing in the background, and the way he'd say, "A man's car is like his word. You take care of it and it'll never fail you." I shook my head. "Sorry, Karen. The answer's no," her son snorted. "Figures. Old guys like you just hoard stuff. Don't worry, Mom. I'll take care of it when I get it anyway." He said it like it was already his. Karen's face changed in an instant. Her smile vanished, replaced with that cold glare every neighbor here knew too well, you know? "Steve, the HOA has certain rules about what kind of vehicles can be displayed in driveways. That thing is practically a museum piece. I could write you up for it unless you cooperate." She was threatening me. Over my own car, I didn't raise my voice, didn't flinch. I just said, "Do what you have to do, Karen. The car's staying right where it is." I walked back inside. But I should have known better. Karen doesn't take no for an answer. An hour later, I was making coffee when I heard sirens outside. I stepped to the window, police lights flashing, 2 cruisers in front of my house, and standing right there, arms crossed, smug as a cat that caught the canary dash Karen. She had actually called the cops on me. The officers stepped out, looking confused. They knew me. Of course they worked under me. But they had to play it straight, Chief. "We got a call about a stolen vehicle. Apparently you've got a Mustang here that belongs to her son?" I felt the heat rise in my chest. Karen had crossed the line from annoying to dangerous. She was filing a false police report. I walked out slowly. It's keeping my composure, but my voice carried enough steel to make everyone stop. "Officers, this is my car. It's registered in my name. Been in my family for decades. If this woman is claiming otherwise, she's committing a crime." Karen didn't even blink. She stepped forward, waving her manicured hands. "Oh, don't be ridiculous, Steve. We all know you're biased. You're the police chief, you? Think anyone's going to question you? I'm just here making sure the law is fair. My son deserves a chance. You shouldn't hog something so valuable when it could make his night." Her son stood there smirking, like the flashing lights were already part of his prom parade. The officers glanced at me, then back at her. "Ma'am, do you have any proof of ownership?" Karen froze. Of course, she didn't, so she doubled down. "Proof. Everyone in this neighborhood knows he should be the one driving it tonight. It's common sense. He's young, he's popular, he's the face of this community. Look at Steve, he doesn't even drive it daily." I could feel neighbors starting to peek out of their windows, whispers spreading. Karen wanted a show? She was about to get one. I took out my badge, held it up high. The street fell silent. Karen. Filing a false police report is a serious offense. Lying to officers is a serious offense. Harassing a homeowner over personal property is a serious offense. And if you keep pushing this, you're going to find yourself riding in the back of one of those cruisers. For the first time, her son's smirk faltered. But Karen? She just narrowed her eyes. You think you scare me, Steve? You think because you wear that badge you're untouchable? The HOA owns this neighborhood, and I'll have your job before the summer's out. You'll regret embarrassing me. With that, she turned on her heel, grabbed her son, and stormed off. But something told me. This wasn't over. It was only the beginning. That night, I sat in my garage with the Mustang, running my hand over the hood. I thought of my father. Thought of the time he first handed me the keys, his voice steady. Respect it, son. This car carries our story. I wasn't about to let an entitled HOA president rewrite that story, but Karen was plotting. And the next move she made would shake the entire neighborhood. Karen wasn't done. She never is. The next morning I woke up to something taped to my garage door. An official-looking envelope with the HOA seal inside. A notice of violation. According to Karen, my Mustang was classified as an unapproved, unsightly vehicle and could no longer be parked in my driveway. If I didn't remove it within 72 hours, I'd face $500 a day in fines. I laughed at first, but the laugh died quick, because I realized Karen was serious. I walked outside holding the letter, and sure enough, Karen was already out front with her son. Sipping coffee like it was victory champagne. "Morning, Steve," she called sweetly. "Oh, I see you've got the notice." Nothing personal, of course. Just rules. HOA policy. If you want to avoid the fines, you know what you need to do. Let my boy borrow the car tonight, and maybe I'll make this all go away. Her son grinned. "Don't worry, Chief. I'll bring it back in one piece." Probably. The arrogance dripped off him. I felt my fists clench, but I kept my voice steady. "You're abusing your position, Karen. That notice is worthless. My car's fully registered, well-maintained, and it's not against any code." She tilted her head, smug as ever. "Oh, but it is. I had the board vote last night on a special amendment. Classic cars can only be stored in enclosed garages. No exceptions." Her timing was no accident. She waited until after dark, stacked the board with her friends, and rewrote the rules just to target me. By lunchtime, it was all anyone in the neighborhood was talking about. Some folks whispered support for me. Others, too scared of Karen, kept their heads down. But she wasn't done stirring the pot. At 3 p.m., I heard the rumble of a tow truck. I ran outside just as the driver backed up toward my Mustang. Karen stood beside him, arms folded, waving the violation notice like it was a court order. "Go ahead," she barked at the driver. "Take it, he's in violation." HOA property rights. Stepped in front of the car. "This vehicle is registered to me, not the HOA. You touch it, you're stealing." "Right!" The driver hesitated, looking between us. Karen's voice went sharp. "Don't listen to him. He's abusing his badge. He thinks he's above the rules." I pulled my phone and hit record. "Karen, you just gave a direct order to unlawfully remove my personal property. That's theft, conspiracy, and harassment. Would you like to keep talking for the camera?" For the first time, I saw a flicker of doubt in her eyes. She hissed at the driver to leave. He shrugged, muttered "not worth the trouble," and drove off. Karen leaned in close, her voice venomous. "You think you're clever, Steve, but I'll ruin you. One way or another, you'll wish you'd just handed over the keys." That night, the Mustang wasn't just a car anymore. It was a battlefield. Every time I looked at it, I remembered my dad, his grease-stained hands, his laughter when I stripped a bolt, his pride when the engine finally roared to life. This wasn't about prom anymore. This was about respect, about principle, and Karen had just declared war. The next week was chaos. First, Karen sent more violation notices. One about my garage door color not matching approved shades. Another about excessive noise from engine revving. She even claimed my American flag on the porch was improperly displayed. Every day, a new letter. Every day, a new fine threat. Neighbors started taking sides. Some slipped me quiet words of encouragement. "We're with you, Chief." Others avoided me altogether, afraid Karen would target them next. But the final straw came Friday night. I was pulling into the driveway after a late shift when I saw it. The Mustang, covered in eggs, yolk dripping down the windshield, shells stuck in the chrome, and on the hood, scratched deep into the paint, one word: loser. I froze. My stomach turned. This wasn't just vandalism. This was personal. My chest tightened as I thought about my dad. The car he left me, the memories it carried violated. I looked around, and there they were. Karen's son and two of his friends, across the street, laughing their heads off. Phones out, recording the whole thing like it was some kind of prank show. Something inside me snapped. I marched across the street. "Hey, you think this is funny?" Karen's son sneered. "Relax, old man. Just teaching you a lesson. Maybe if you'd let me borrow it, we wouldn't have had to," his buddies cackled. One muttered, "Bet he cries over his daddy's toy." My fists clenched so tight my nails dug into my palms. But I couldn't lose it. Not here. Not like this. I pulled out my phone again. "Congratulations, boys. You just committed felony vandalism. And lucky for you, you did it in front of the police chief." Their laughter died. Karen's son paled. "Why you wouldn't?" "Oh, I would," I said coldly. "And guess what? Every neighbor's security camera picked you up. This isn't going away." They bolted inside. Doors slammed. Lights went out, but I wasn't done. The next morning, I called a neighborhood meeting. Not HOA approved. Not Karen's stage. Just neighbors, gathering in my front yard. I stood beside the Mustang, still scarred, still streaked with egg, and raised my voice. "Folks, this is more than just about me. This is about all of us. About how far we're willing to let one person abuse power in this neighborhood." Whispers spread. Heads nodded. People were tired. One man spoke up. "Karen fined me for having a bird feeder. Another, she threatened me over my Christmas lights. A woman, she said she'd block my pool permit unless I joined the board." Story after story poured out. Karen had ruled with fear for too long. I pointed to the car. "This is what happens when we let entitlement run unchecked. It escalates. It gets uglier. It has to stop." The crowd murmured in agreement. And right then, Karen stepped onto her porch. She looked furious, her face red as fire. "What is this? An illegal gathering? You can't hold a meeting without HOA approval." I met her eyes. "This isn't an HOA meeting. This is a neighborhood meeting. And guess what, Karen? You don't run it. We do." The crowd clapped. Some cheered, her voice cracked with rage. "You people are making a mistake. You think you can turn against me? I'll bury you all in violations." But she was drowned out by the sound of voices rising together. No more fines. No more threats. Enough, Karen. For the first time, her power slipped. She stormed back inside, slamming the door so hard it rattled the porch lights. But I knew Karen. This wasn't over. She'd come back swinging harder than ever, and I needed to be ready, because the next move she made wouldn't just threaten me. It would threaten my badge, my family, and everything I stood for. Karen couldn't stand being embarrassed. Not in front of her neighbors. Not in front of me, the morning after the crowd turned against her. I woke up to a letter slid under my door. It wasn't an HOA violation this time. It was worse. An anonymous complaint had been filed against me with the city council. Accusations of abuse of power, intimidation of residents, and even misuse of police resources. And the signature at the bottom? Not anonymous at all, Karen. I sat there at my kitchen table, the letter trembling in my hands. This wasn't just HOA pettiness anymore. She was going after my career, my reputation, my badge, the badge my father pinned on me when I first became chief, the badge I swore to uphold with honor, and Karen wanted to rip it away that evening. The council scheduled an emergency hearing. Karen was there, dressed sharp, Smug smile plastered across her face. Her son sat beside her, smirking like this was his victory lap. She stood up first, her voice dripping with false concern. Ladies and gentlemen, I speak today not just as HOA president, but as a concerned citizen. Our police chief has been using his authority to bully, to intimidate, and to harass. He refuses to follow neighborhood rules, and when challenged, he threatens arrest. Is this who we want protecting our town? Her son nodded dramatically, pretending to be some kind of victim, and for a second, I saw doubt flicker across the faces of the council members. Karen was good at this. Twisting stories, playing victim, turning her corruption into a performance. When it was my turn to speak, I walked to the front of the room. Not in uniform. Just me. I placed a flash drive on the table and connected it to the projector. Council members, neighbors, friends, I don't need to tell you who I am. You know me. I've served this town for over 20 years. I've been there when your homes were robbed, when your kids went missing, when storms flooded our streets, and I've never asked for anything in return except trust. I clicked the remote on the screen. Footage rolled. Karen, screaming at a tow truck driver to take the car. Karen, waving false violation letters in my face. Karen's son and his friends vandalizing the Mustang, laughing about it. The room went silent except for the audio. Bet he cries over his daddy's toy. Relax, old man, the neighbors gasped. Whispers spread like wildfire. I let the silence sit before speaking again. This isn't about me. This is about abuse. Abuse of power. Abuse of neighbors. Abuse of community trust. And if this is what the president of our HOA thinks is acceptable, then maybe the real question is, who should be protecting us from her? Karen shot up from her chair, red-faced, pointing at me. Those videos are out of context. He set me up. But her voice was drowned out by murmurs, by neighbors shaking their heads, by one man standing up and saying loudly, I've had enough of her. Others joined in. She'll find me for my flag. She harassed my wife about our garden. She called animal control on my dog. The chamber turned into a storm, and then something happened that I'll never forget. An elderly woman, Mrs. Patterson, one of the oldest residents, stood with tears in her eyes. Her voice cracked as she said, Karen threatened to evict me when my husband died. Said my grief was making the lawn look bad. We've all been too scared to speak, but no more. The room went still. Karen's mask cracked. Her son muttered, Mom, let's go. But she shoved him aside, shouting over the noise, You're all ungrateful. I built this community. Without me, you'd all be nothing. Her words echoed, and then the council chair banged the gavel. Enough. Effective immediately, Karen is removed from her position as HOA president, and given the evidence presented, further charges will be reviewed by law enforcement. Karen's face drained of color. Her son slumped back, stunned, and me. I felt something I hadn't in weeks. Relief. Neighbors gathered around, clapping me on the shoulder, thanking me. Some hugged me. Others apologized for staying quiet too long, for the first time in years. The neighborhood felt united. That night I sat in the garage with the Mustang. The scratches were still there, the paint still scarred. But as I ran my hand across the hood, I didn't feel anger anymore. I felt peace. Because this wasn't just about a car. It was about standing up for what's right. For my dad? For my badge. For my neighbors who'd been silenced too long. I turned the key. The engine roared to life, deep and powerful, and in that sound I heard my father's voice. A man's car is like his word. You take care of it, and it'll never fail you. Karen eventually moved away, tail tucked between her legs. Her son, last I heard, he works at a used car lot 2 towns over. Funny, isn't it? The Mustang still sits in my driveway, shiny, strong, unstoppable. And every time I see it, I'm reminded of the day my neighborhood found its voice. To my viewers, if you've ever dealt with a Karen, an HOA nightmare, or an entitled neighbor who thought they owned the world, drop your story in the comments. I'd love to hear it, because at the end of the day, people like Karen only win when we stay silent. And trust me, silence is the one thing they can't stand.